So what has to happen? We have to have wisdom that comes from above. If I'm looking for a source, I want to go to the actual origin of that source, correct? I would have to assume that the source of Poland spring water is gotta be great. One day I will go to Maine and find it. That mythical place where they get all that Poland spring water. That was not a plug for Poland spring water, but it's just, you don't want to go to the source. You don't want to go get it from downstream. You don't want to go get it from somewhere else. You want to go to where it begins. And what does it look like? James is saying all the deeds are done with humility and meekness. Have you ever met a know-it-all? I've met a know-it-all. If you haven't met a know-it-all and you're trying to scramble your brain to figure out who the know-it-all is, you are probably the know-it-all. So, but I've met a few. They know it everything. And you start to realize that there's no humility or meekness in this person. They're just spouting out whatever they know. And it sounds good until you start looking at their life, and their life doesn't quite match what they're saying, and it becomes a problem. But he goes on, and he talks about the issue that we have. And this is a big one. This is a huge one. He talks about false wisdom that does not originate from God. And he shows us what the warning sign is. Now, if you don't know what the warning signs are, then you haven't been paying attention for the past year or two. Because clearly the politics in America are, they should have been, a glaring warning sign to all of us. Whatever side of the aisle you're on, it's no different. We have to remember something. He says in verse 14 that bitter envying and strife accompany false wisdom. So things that cause division, strife, anger, bitterness, all those types of things, that's not true wisdom. The Greek word that is translated for envying is derived from the word for zeal. We also get the word zealot from that. But zeal can be both good and bad. You can have a lot of zeal to do great things in the world. And you can also have a lot of zeal to do some really negative things in this world. So we can provide the fire for motivation, that's a positive change that warms somebody's heart. It's the same thing that we do with our tongue, right? We can be the encouragement. Or we can do the opposite. We can tear somebody down. We can be bitter and angry. And we can actually incite strife and violence. And we've seen some of that already. You can turn on any news channel and you'll see it around the world. You'll see it in our own country. We don't think words matter, but they actually do. Because it's what gets everybody motivated to do the things that they do. And what happens? We look at our own wisdom. We look at what we think is right. Here's the problem. We are filled with wonderful emotions. And sometimes we don't put a boundary on them. Sometimes we get caught up in the moment of things. And we forget to use an ounce of sense and a pinch of wisdom before we speak and before we act. Why do I say this? Because so many problems start with someone giving a speech. Have you ever noticed that? Speeches can inspire us, but they can also destroy us. In verse 15, James describes the traits of false wisdom. And he says, this is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. That's pretty strong. He continues in verse 16 to describe the destructive consequences of false wisdom. What happens when you realize that the wisdom that you're hearing, that you're experiencing, is not true wisdom? Guess what happens? Jealousy, selfish ambition, disorder, every vile practice you can think of comes up. It creeps out. He he finally goes on to explain what true wisdom is. In the last couple of verses, true wisdom is pure. It is free from self-interest. It's not something that is defiled. Heavenly wisdom is peaceable and gentle and easy. You see, the wisdom of the world causes contention. It produces strife. It separates us. True wisdom, though, leads to peace. It's compliant. It's willing to yield, yet without compromise to evil. We have to understand that when we are talking about the wisdom that's from above, it's something that is full of mercy. It's full of things that are good. We talk about speaking life into people, to speak encouragement into people's lives. That's the type of wisdom that comes from above. When someone leaves your presence, are they angrier than when they met you first? Because that's a problem, right? If they come and meet you and now they come back and they're ready to just go off the deep end, what have they experienced from you? And by the way, sometimes it's tough to tell the difference. Sometimes it's tough to tell the difference because some of the things that we are passionate about, they seem right in the moment. But James explains that heavenly wisdom is full of mercy. It doesn't show any partiality. It doesn't show preference because you're wealthy or because you're poor or because you're whatever. Black, white, male, female, whatever it is that you want. I mean, we have so many descriptions of humanity, it's unbelievable. You could be checking boxes for days on all the places where we have placed people. Why? Because that is what worldly wisdom does. It separates people. True wisdom doesn't show that. It doesn't show that preference. It's genuine and it's sincere.